Meanwhile, there is growing fascination. There's growing speculations about unidentified flying objects here in the United States as more and more journalists release footage.
But are they indeed signs of other life forms or developments of our own military technologies or even those of our enemies?
Yeah, which one is it? Joining us to discuss is Brandon Weichert, national security and space race analyst. He's also the author of this book, Winning Space, How America Remains a Superpower. Our panelists standing by, Amanda Mackey and Scott Walker. Brandon, so good to have you on here to explain this. What is driving this interest now in this phenomenon, this UFO phenomenon growing here in the States?
Well, thanks for having me. And I think the big interest is that the U.S. military, or at least elements of the U.S. military, are coming out not just with eyewitness accounts, but they're coming out with these videos, very compelling sensor telemetry data. You have top-tier government officials in Congress, like Senator Rubio, coming out demanding answers. You have this commission that was formed to basically reveal everything the government purportedly knows about this phenomenon. So there's a real official interest, which I think is piquing a lot of the media and ordinary Americans' interests.
Yeah, you talk about that release. The Pentagon expected to release a report sometime soon. We're already seeing some previews of it. Officials telling the New York Times that they can say that the objects are not alien spacecraft, but that they can't explain what they are. Talk to me, Brandon, about your thoughts of what could be the explanation behind what we're seeing.
Well, we're living in wild times, so I'm not going to come out and automatically discount aliens, but I really think it's a more terrestrial explanation. The U.S. Navy, for instance, has patented several exotic technologies like high-frequency gravitational wave generators, force field-like electromagnetic field generators, plasma compression fusion drive devices, and the inertial mass reduction device, all of which, if they operate according to the Navy's patents, would exhibit what these objects appear to be exhibiting, sort of physics-defying maneuvers and whatnot. And it's being patented under a very small Navy office, so it's possible the right hand isn't talking to the left hand, and that's why you're having military people not recognizing what's being tested in restricted airspace. Another more frightening possibility is that these craft belong to China or Russia. We know China has leapfrogged the Americans in several respects in the hypersonic R&D. They recently announced they have a very advanced JF-21 wind tunnel capable of testing large hypersonic kill vehicles, which is larger and better than the Navy's Lens 2 hypersonic wind tunnel that we've relied on for years. China has thrown a lot of resources into this technology. They've also thrown a lot of resources into other exotic technologies like metamaterials, graphene, for instance, nanotechnology. They're heavily invested in. Charles Lieber was a Harvard scientist who was caught working for China, in fact. So China is heavily invested in what we would call exotic technology, and they could very well have leapfrogged the Americans given the level of investment and interest they've had in these technologies.
That's an interesting possible explanation for this. Governor Walker, there's one thing, though, that is undeniable. The fact that it seems as if all this leaking of UFOs, if you will, seems to be happening as of recent.
Yeah, it is very recent. It's fascinating, although I tend to agree. I think the bigger concern is China and Russia getting ahead of us. I remember decades ago when Ronald Reagan first pushed the Strategic Defense Initiative. Many people mocked him. The one most important person that believed him was Mikhail Gorbachev, and that, of course, came about, helped bring about the fall of the Berlin Wall and the end of communism. Today, just a few weeks ago, we saw the post effect of that with the Iron Dome in Israel and the defense system they have, which was I think, a model based on SDI. Now we see the reverse. You look at Russia and China very much ahead. That's a big concern if that indeed is the case.
Yeah. Amanda, the fact that people had mocked Space Force when it was created under the Trump administration might want to revisit that, because again, if you've got concerns that China's got some sort of equipment that's way more powerful than our U.S. Navy can come up with, things could be uncertain.
Yeah, and from the political aspect, I would just say we finally have a bipartisan issue. You have, Marco Rubio, who was the former chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, now the ranking member, saying, this is a real thing. And when he tells his colleagues in the Senate, they kind of chuckle at it. People still kind of laugh this off. But if you look back in 2007, then the Democrat majority leader of the Senate, Harry Reid, actually put funding towards a tracking of UFOs. So for almost 20 years, this has been going on. And you have both Republicans and Democrats who really are embroiled in this issue, are really concerned about what's happening, looking at it from the national defense aspect, looking at it as a strategic threat. And so finally, there may be actually a bipartisan issue in Washington that members of Congress can get around.
Let me just put a button on it with Brandon here, and then we'll jump out of it. But Brandon, I mean, is there technology that is developed by a country, information about that technology that may be deemed classified, that information about it is not going to be shared, you're not going to see it leaked, things that will be kept under wraps? Is that also a possibility?
Absolutely. And I just spoke with the Air Force last week, and their big concern is what if their people are faced with an exotic technology fielded by a rival like China and they can't defend the homeland? And we're talking hypersonics in this case. So yes, both we, the Chinese, as well as the Russians, have developed a coterie of technologies that we would deem exotic that could very well be scaled up and used in a first strike, bolt from the blue, Pearl Harbor type attack.
Wow.
All right.
A lot to think about that.
Yeah. I'm thinking Iron Man suits out there, got Robert Downey Jr. flying around, all kinds of different stuff. All right, we'll leave it right there. Brandon Weichert, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Panelists, Scott Walker and Amanda Mackey, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, this past Sunday,